International Relations 17th BRICS Summit, 2025 News. Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi participated today in the 17th BRICS Summit being held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil on 6 to 7 July 2025. About 17th BRICS Summit, 2025 host, President Brazil theme. Strengthening global South cooperation for more inclusive and sustainable governance, key highlights of the summit. Adopted BRICS leaders' framework declaration on climate finance to provide affordable and timely support for developing countries and enable just transitions. Adopted BRICS leaders' statement on global AI governance to ensure responsible use and regulation of AI in line with national laws and the UN Charter. Launched BRICS partnership on eliminating socially determined diseases to address health inequalities rooted in poverty and exclusion. Note: India will assume the BRICS chairship and host the 18th BRICS Summit in 2026. About BRICS. Nature. BRICS is an intergovernmental organization comprising 10 countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates (UAE). Genesis of the idea. The concept of a BRICS-like grouping can be traced back to Russian Foreign Minister Yevgeny Primakov and earlier forums such as RIC, Russia, India, China, and IBSA, India, Brazil, South Africa. The term BRIC was originally coined by British economist Jim O'Neill. First summit, 2009, held with the founding members Brazil, Russia, India, and China. They formally adopted the acronym BRIC. First expansion, 2010 to 2011. In April 2010, South Africa attended the second BRICS Summit as a guest. In September 2010, it formally joined the grouping, which was renamed BRICS. South Africa participated as a full member at the third BRICS Summit in 2011. Second expansion, BRICS Plus, 2024 to 2025. At the 2024 BRICS Summit in Russia, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates, UAE, joined as new member states. In early 2025, Indonesia officially became a member, marking the entry of the first Southeast Asian country into BRICS. India-Philippines Strategic Partnership. News. India and the Philippines have formally upgraded their bilateral relations by declaring a strategic partnership to be implemented under the Plan of Action, 2025 to 2029. Background. Diplomatic ties established in 1949 among India's earliest Southeast Asian partners. 75 years of relations were celebrated in 2024 with the declaration of a strategic partnership under the Plan of Action, 2025 to 2029. Engagement shaped by Look East Policy, 1992, and strengthened through Act East Policy, 2014, focusing on maritime security, connectivity, and Indo-Pacific cooperation. Areas of cooperation. Defense and security. BrahMos deal, 2022. Philippines became the first foreign buyer of India's BrahMos missile system, $375 million, a landmark in India's defense exports. Maritime security. Cooperation in HADR, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, search and rescue, and support for the 2016 UNCLOS arbitration ruling against China. Both advocate freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. Dialogue. First track, 1 Maritime Dialogue held in Manila, 2024. Regular naval and coast guard exchanges enhance maritime domain awareness. Economic relations bilateral trade stood at $3.3 billion, 2024 to 25. Indian investments in pharma, IT, and renewable energy. Philippines exports electronics and agricultural products to India. Capacity building. The Philippines benefits significantly from the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation (IDEC) program, with training, scholarships, and technical exchanges. Cultural and people-to-people linkages. Cultural Exchange Program, 2019 to 23. Expanded cooperation in art, heritage, and media. Shared historical ties through Buddhism, reinforced under the ASEAN India Framework. Indian diaspora, 150,000, contributes to IT, healthcare, and business sectors in the Philippines. India-Singapore cooperation. News. The Prime Minister of Singapore visited India to mark the 60th anniversary of diplomatic ties between the two countries. Key outcomes of India-Singapore Meeting 1. Strategic and security cooperation. Singapore supported India's participation in Malacca Strait patrols, a strategic choke point vital for global trade and energy flows. Collaboration agreed on defense technologies, including quantum computing, AI, automation, and unmanned maritime vessels. Joint initiatives in maritime security, submarine rescue operations, and the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative (IPOI) were strengthened. Enhanced cooperation in F-ATF frameworks to combat cross-border terrorism. Malacca Strait location connects the Andaman Sea, Indian Ocean, with the South China Sea, Pacific Ocean. Significance. One of the world's busiest shipping routes, handling about 60% of global maritime trade, including oil shipments. India's interests. Proximity to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands makes it crucial for India's maritime strategy. Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative (IPOI), a voluntary, non-treaty framework promoting a free, open, and rules-based Indo-Pacific order. Launched by India in 2019 at the East Asia Summit, Bangkok. Singapore actively participates, particularly in maritime security and the digital economy. 2. Green and digital economy cooperation. MoU signed for exporting green energy from India to Singapore via dedicated ports. Development of a green and digital shipping corridor to support sustainable maritime trade. A national center of excellence for advanced manufacturing skills to be established in Chennai. 3. Infrastructure and trade collaboration. Virtual inauguration of PSA Mumbai Bharat Mumbai Container Terminal. Civil aviation R&D maintenance, repair, cooperation expanded in and overhaul, MRO, services. Semiconductor sector highlighted as a priority. Singapore to assist in setting up design and fabrication clusters in India. Pakistan-Saudi Arabia signs strategic mutual defense agreement. News. On September 17, 2025, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia formalized a strategic mutual defense agreement in Riyadh, underscoring their commitment to collective security. Key provisions. Collective defense. The pact stipulates that an act of aggression against one nation will be considered an act against both, reinforcing mutual defense obligations. Nuclear deterrence. While not explicitly stated, Pakistan's defense minister indicated that the agreement could extend Pakistan's nuclear deterrence to Saudi Arabia, though this aspect remains ambiguous. Strategic implications. Regional security dynamics. The agreement reflects a shift in Gulf security alignments, with Saudi Arabia seeking to diversify its security partnerships amid concerns over the reliability of traditional allies. Regional security dynamics. The agreement reflects a shift in Gulf security alignments, with Saudi Arabia seeking to diversify its security partnerships amid concerns over the reliability of traditional allies. Impact on India. India views the pact with concern, interpreting it as a potential strategic deterrent in the context of regional security challenges. India-Saudi Arabia relations. Strategic partnership. The formal strategic partnership between India and Saudi Arabia was established in 2010 through the Riyadh Declaration. Economic ties. India is the second largest trade partner of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia ranks as the fifth largest trading partner of India. Bilateral trade in 2023 stood at $42.98 billion, with India remaining a net importer. In 2024, Saudi Arabia contributed 6.7% total inward of India's remittances. Energy cooperation. Saudi Arabia is India's third largest crude oil supplier, highlighting the critical role of energy in bilateral relations. H-1B visa. News. U.S. President Donald Trump has introduced a substantial increase in the H-1B visa fee, a visa widely used by Indian tech professionals. About H-1B visa. U.S.-based companies foreign, it is a non-immigrant visa that allows to hire professionals for specialty roles that require technical or theoretical expertise for a fixed period. It is especially important in sectors like technology, finance, engineering, and architecture. Purpose: to help U.S. employers fill skill gaps when qualified American workers are not available. Specialty roles usually require a bachelor's degree or equivalent experience in the relevant field. Eligibility criteria: to apply for an H-1B visa, an individual must have a valid job offer from a U.S. employer for a specialty role, hold a bachelor's degree or equivalent experience in the relevant field, demonstrate that there is a shortage of qualified U.S. applicants for the position. Key features: annual cap, 85,000 visas, 65,000 for regular applicants, 20,000 reserved for those with advanced degrees exemptions, roles in higher education, research, and nonprofit organizations. Selection: lottery system validity, 3 years, extendable once for another 3 years, maximum 6 years. Green card eligibility. H-1B holders can apply for permanent residency for themselves and their family's job change. Requires a new visa application. Recent changes. The U.S. government under President Donald Trump has introduced a major fee increase for H-1B visas, raising the cost from $4,500 to $100,000 per visa. This change took effect on September 21, 2025, and will remain in place for 12 months unless extended. The hike mainly affects Indian tech professionals, who make up a large portion of H-1B applicants. 4 Western nations recognize the state of Palestine. News recently: for Western countries, France, UK, Canada, Australia formally recognized Palestine as a sovereign state, joining more than 140 UN member nations that have already done so. India's stand on Palestine: India had recognized the state of Palestine in 1988 and continues to support its full statehood. Most recently, India voted in favor of a UN General Assembly resolution endorsing the New York Declaration, which calls for a peaceful settlement based on the two-state solution. About recognition of states. Definition: recognition is the formal act by which one state acknowledges the existence of another entity as a sovereign state in the international system. Criteria for statehood: as defined under Article 1 of the Montevideo Convention, 1933, a state must have a permanent population, a defined territory, a government, the capacity to enter into relations with other states. Implications of state recognition: once recognized, a state gains the right to establish diplomatic relations with other nations, the capacity to sign treaties and agreements under international law, the privileges and immunities accorded to sovereign states. Eligibility for UN membership, subject to approval by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council. Currently, Palestine holds the status of a permanent observer state in the United Nations, not a full member. Recognition and the role of the United Nations. UN itself cannot recognize a state or a government, neither the as it is a state nor a government. Recognition is an act exclusively exercised by sovereign states. United Nations admit a new state as a member that can, however, or accept the credentials of representatives from a newly formed government once recognized by other member states. Armenia-Azerbaijan Peace Treaty. News: Armenia and Azerbaijan inked a landmark peace deal at the White House, mediated by the U.S., bringing decades of conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh to an end. Background of the conflict. The long-standing conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan centers on Nagorno-Karabakh, a mountainous region located within Azerbaijan but home to a majority of ethnic Armenians. In the 1980s, tensions escalated when Nagorno-Karabakh sought to break away from Azerbaijan, receiving support from Armenia. By 1991, both Armenia and Azerbaijan had gained independence following the collapse of the Soviet Union, yet the territorial dispute over Nagorno-Karabakh persisted. In 2023, Azerbaijan regained full control over the region, prompting a humanitarian crisis as nearly 100,000 ethnic Armenians fled to Armenia to escape the conflict. Key outcomes of the recent deal: end of hostilities. The deal ends nearly 35 years of conflict, fostering regional stability. Trump route for peace and prosperity. The agreement reopens important transport corridors and creates a route linking Azerbaijan to its Nakhchivan exclave through Armenia. U.S. development rights. U.S. developed will have exclusive rights to and manage the route, but no American troops will be involved. India's strategic interest. Relations with Armenia. India and Armenia share ancient cultural and historical ties. Their modern relationship is strong, including a $250 million defense deal in 2022. Armenia also supports India's stance on Kashmir and in the UN Security Council. Connectivity. The South Caucasus, Armenia and Azerbaijan, is important for India's trade and transport links to Russia and Europe through the International North-South Transport Corridor, INSTC, which India aims to strengthen via Chabahar Port. U.S. withdrawal from UNESCO. News. The Trump administration has announced that the United States will withdraw from UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, by the end of 2026. Reasons of withdrawal. Alleged bias against Israel. The U.S. claims UNESCO has shown prejudice against Israel. Conflict with U.S. interests. According to the U.S., UNESCO advances divisive cultural and social agendas and places excessive emphasis on UN Sustainable Development Goals, which contradicts the America First policy. Impact of U.S. withdrawal. Financial setback. The U.S. contributes around 8% of UNESCO's total budget. Its exit will strain the agency's resources and hinder global cultural heritage preservation efforts. About UNESCO headquarters. Paris, France. Status. A specialized agency of the United Nations. Aim. To foster world peace and security through cooperation in education, science, culture, and the arts. It has 194 members and 12 associate members. UN membership automatically grants the right to join UNESCO. Non-UN states may also be admitted if recommended by the Executive Board and approved by a two-thirds majority in the General Conference. Funding. Primarily from member state contributions, along with voluntary donations, fundraising, and smaller additional sources. Key reports and initiatives. Global Education Monitoring Report. Global Ocean Science Report. World Trends in Freedom of Expression and Media Development. UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Man and the Biosphere, MAB, Program E3 Countries News. Iranian diplomats are meeting counterparts from E3 countries for renewed nuclear talks amid warnings of sanctions. About E3 countries. It is an informal foreign and security cooperation arrangement between the UK, Germany, and France. It was established in 2003, when the UK was still a member of the EU. Reason for establishment. The E3 met for the first time after the US attacked Iraq in 2003 to identify a trilateral strategy towards Iraq and manage nuclear risks coming from Iran. Main task. The E3's main task is to negotiate with Iran due to growing security concerns. Feature. It could be described as an informal kind of mini-lateralism, i.e. a small group of like-minded parties working together, either outside or inside international organizations. World Food Programme, WFP News. India launched a new collaborative initiative with the support of the UN World Food Programme to strengthen rice fortification and supply chain management in Nepal. About World Food Programme, WFP, International Organization United Nations, UN. It is and within that provides food assistance worldwide. Aim. It aims to eradicate hunger and malnutrition. Headquarters. It is headquartered in Rome and has offices in 87 countries. Objective. It was established as the lead agency to respond to food emergencies and help combat hunger. Global presence. It has its presence in over 120 countries and territories to carry out its mission. In 2023, it supported over 152 million people. Funding. Its operations are entirely funded through the voluntary contributions of donor governments, institutions, corporations, and individuals. Partnerships. It governments, agencies, works with other United Nations, non-governmental organizations, private companies, and others. It is an executive member of the United Nations Sustainable Development Group with a priority to achieve SDG 2, Zero Hunger, by 2030. Recognition. It was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2020. Reports published. Global Report on Food Crises. The State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World, in collaboration with the FAO, IFAD, UNICEF, and WHO, Genocide Convention. News. A UN-mandated independent international commission of inquiry recently released a report on Israel's actions in Gaza. IT examines them in the context of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, Genocide Convention. About the Genocide Convention. Genocide intended to it is an international treaty that defines as any act destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. It affirms that genocide is punishable both during war and in times of peace. The convention was adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1948 and entered into force in 1951. First human rights treaty to United Nations, it was to be adopted by the General Assembly UNGA. Membership and status signatories. 41 countries have signed but not ratified the convention. Parties, 153 states. Most recent signatory, Zambia, 2022. India, 1949, ratified it in 1959. Signed the convention in and implementation and jurisdiction. The International Court of Justice, ICJ, is responsible for interpreting and adjudicating disputes arising from the application of the Genocide Convention. Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC. News recently, a global hunger monitoring body, Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, officially declared that famine is occurring in Gaza. About Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, it is the main global system for assessing hunger crises. It is an independent organization but funded by Western countries. 19 humanitarian organizations and regional bodies oversee it and work with national governments to analyze data. Purpose: to sound the alarm early to prevent famine and guide humanitarian response. Data collection method: IPC relies on the UN World Food Programme, WFP, other relief organizations, and government agencies. How is famine determined? IPC classifies acute food insecurity on a 5-phase scale. Phase 5 is the highest: catastrophe, individual household level, and famine, wider area level. Famine criteria: at least 20% of the population face extreme food shortages. 1 in 3 children are acutely malnourished. At least 2 out of every 10,000 people die daily from starvation, malnutrition, or related diseases. A famine review committee of up to 6 experts validates findings. IPC does not formally declare famine but provides analysis for governments and agencies. Asia-Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, AIBD, News. India has been elected as the chairman of the executive board of AIBD at 23rd General Conference in Thailand. About Asia-Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, AIBD. Establishment: AIBD was established in 1977 under the auspices of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. Purpose: it is a unique regional intergovernmental organization serving countries of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, UNESCAP, in the field of electronic media development. Mandate: to promote a vibrant and cohesive electronic media environment in the Asia-Pacific region through policy formulation and resource development. Members: AIBD currently has 92 member organizations from 45 countries. Secretariat: Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. India's role: founding members praise our India, is one of the of AIBD. Bharti, India's public service broadcaster, represents the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting at AIBD. Forum for India-Pacific Island Cooperation, FIPIC. News: External Affairs Minister hosted a FIPIC Foreign Ministers meeting in New York on the sidelines of the 80th Union General Assembly. About Forum for India-Pacific Island Cooperation, FIPIC. It is a multilateral platform set up by India to strengthen ties and cooperation with the Pacific Island nations. It was established in 2014 during the Prime Minister of India's visit to Fiji. It is in line with India's Act East policy to enhance engagement with Pacific Island countries. Purpose: to deepen India's engagement with Pacific Island nations, support their development priorities through collaborative projects and initiatives. Members: India and 14 Pacific Island countries. Cook Islands, Fiji, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Federated States of Micronesia, Nauru, Niue, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Tonga, Tuvalu, and Vanuatu. FIPIC summits held. Since 2014, 3 FIPIC summits have been held. First, 2014, Suva, Fiji. Second, 2015, Jaipur, India. Third, 2023, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. Key Indian initiatives under FIPIC. $1 million Fund for climate change adaptation and clean energy. Trade office in India for Pacific Island countries. Pan-Pacific Islands e-network to improve digital connectivity. Visa on arrival for citizens of all 14 Pacific Island nations. Cooperation in space technology to improve quality of life. Training for diplomats from Pacific Island countries. To the point term/initiatives index in News India, UN Global Capacity Building Initiative. Context: India launched projects with the UN under Global Capacity Building Initiative for Asia, Africa, and Caribbean countries. About Global Capacity Building Initiative launch, jointly introduced by India and the United Nations in September 2023. Aim: to disseminate India's development experiences, best practices, and technical expertise to countries of the Global South, thereby supporting their efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Implementation mechanism: operates through the UN India SDG Country Fund and the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation, IEC, program, K-Visa. Context: China will introduce a new visa category, the K-Visa, effective October 1st. About the K-Visa policy, designed to attract foreign science and technology talents who meet specified criteria in China. Open to all foreign nationals, including those without a confirmed job offer. Offers multiple entries, longer validity, and extended stay periods. Eligibility: graduates in STEM fields with at least a bachelor's degree from recognized universities or research institutions. Elders Group. Context: the Elders, a group of retired world leaders, called the situation in Gaza an unfolding genocide and warned that Israel's blockade of aid has caused a famine. About Elders Group, founded 2007 by Nelson Mandela, independent group of retired global leaders. Purpose: promote peace, justice, human rights, and sustainable development. Support: backed by Advisory Council through donations and assistance. Focus areas: climate crisis, pandemics, nuclear risks, and conflicts. Global Peace Index 2025. Context: Iceland has once again secured its position as the most peaceful country in the world, as per the 2025 Global Peace Index, GPI. About Global Peace Index 2025 producer, Institute for Economics and Peace, IEP. Coverage: 163 countries/territories, 99.7% of world population. Indicators: 23 metrics across 3 domains. Societal safety and security. Ongoing domestic and international conflict. Militarization 2025 edition, 19th. Most peaceful countries: Iceland, Ireland, Austria, New Zealand, Switzerland. Least peaceful countries: Russia, Ukraine, Sudan, DR Congo, Yemen. India, ranked 115, up 1 position from 2024. Places in News conflict region in News Gaza Strip, Con crisis. The UN declared a famine in August 2025, Eunice, Rafah, putting nearly 500,000 people at risk of starvation. Jabalia, Deir al. This follows Israel's blockade and restricted aid Bala. Access after Hamas attacks. Geography: narrow coastal region along the eastern Mediterranean borders Israel, north and east, and Egypt, southwest. Population: over 2.2 million. One of the world's most densely populated areas. Sudan, Darfur, crisis. Sudan descended into civil war in April. Khartoum, South 2023, due to a violent power struggle between the Kordofan, Blue Nile National Army, and the paramilitary Rapid Support States Force, RSF. Geography: located in Northeast Africa, Africa's third largest country, bordered by Egypt and the Red Sea, traversed by the Nile River, White and Blue branches. Ukraine, Kiev, crisis. Humanitarian conditions are worsening. Donetsk, amid repeated Russian missile and drone attacks. Zaporizhia. Geography: Cherkasy, Chernihiv, Kharkiv. Eastern European country bordered by Russia and the Black Sea/Sea of Azov. Dnieper River flows south to the Black Sea. Carpathian Mountains in the west, Crimean Mountains in the south. Countries/states in News Philippines context. In 2025, India and the Philippines upgraded ties to a strategic partnership during the Philippine president's state visit. About Philippines location: it is an island country of Southeast Asia in the western Pacific Ocean. Maritime bordering countries: Taiwan to the north, Japan to the northeast, Palau to the east and southeast, Indonesia to the south, Malaysia to the southwest, Vietnam to the west, and China to the northwest. Water bodies: Philippine Sea, east, Celebes Sea south, Sulu Sea, southwest, and South China Sea, west and north. Highest point, Mount Apo. Major rivers: Cagayan River, Philippines' longest river, Mindanao, Aguizan, Ogno River, etc. Biodiversity heritage: the Philippines has 6 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, including Tabataha Reef, Sulu Sea, Puerto Princesa Subterranean River, Mount Hamiguitan Wildlife Sanctuary. Political system: the Philippines has a democratic government, a constitutional republic with a presidential system. Morocco. Context: India and Morocco recently signed a defense cooperation MoU in Rabat. About Morocco capital: Rabat. Location: Morocco is in North Africa, part of the Maghreb region, lying in both the northern and western hemispheres. Borders: Algeria to the east and Western Sahara to the south. Coastlines: Morocco is the only African country with coastlines on both the Atlantic Ocean, west, and the Mediterranean Sea, north. Political system: constitutional monarchy with a king as the head of state and a bicameral legislature. Notable landmarks: Hassan II Mosque in Casablanca and 8 Ben Haddou, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Ecuador. Context: Ecuador's indigenous communities strongly oppose President Noboa's plan to expand oil drilling in the Amazon. About Ecuador capital: Quito. Location: northwestern South America, includes the Galapagos Islands. History: formerly part of the Inca Empire, later a Spanish colony. Geography: for regions: coastal lowlands, Central Andes, Cordillera Occidental and Cordillera Oriental, Amazon lowlands. Borders: north Colombia, south and east Peru, west Pacific Ocean. Highest point, Mount Chimborazo, 6,268 m/20,560 feet. Volcano: Cotopaxi, one of the world's highest active volcanoes. Rivers: Babahoyo, Kaira, Coca, Karare. Ghana. Context: the PM of India visited Ghana. About Ghana location: West Africa land borders, Ivory Coast, west, Burkina Faso, north, Togo, east, marine boundary, Gulf of Guinea and the Atlantic Ocean. Major rivers: Volta River, Black Volta, White Volta, PRA, Tano. Natural resources: among the world's top producers of gold and cocoa. Lesotho. Context: Minister of State for External Affairs Pabitra Margarita landed in the Seru city of Lesotho on a visit to the country. About Lesotho location: landlocked country in southern Africa, completely surrounded by South Africa mountains, located in the Melody Mountains, known as the Mountain Kingdom. Highest peak: the Bana Mplanyana, 3,482 m, highest in southern Africa. Rivers: Orange River originates in Lesotho Highlands. Caledon River forms part of the western border with South Africa. Government: parliamentary constitutional monarchy. Sierra Leone context: Sierra Leone's Golataiwe complex has been designated as the country's first UNESCO World Heritage Site, WHS. About Sierra Leone location: situated in West Africa, bordered by Guinea, Liberia, and the Atlantic Ocean. Economy: mining sector dominates exports, mainly iron ore, diamonds, and titanium. Iron ore accounts for about 70% of exports. Social issue: Facing a major synthetic opioid kush crisis, the president has declared a national campaign to combat it. Governance. It is a presidential republic, with a unicameral parliament and a directly elected president. Alaska. Context. The president of USA and Russia met in Alaska regarding ceasefire in Russia-Ukraine war. About Alaska location. Non-contiguous U.S. State situated at the northwestern extremity of North America. History. Purchased from Russia under the Alaska Treaty of 1867. Maritime boundaries. North. Beaufort Sea and Arctic Ocean. South. Gulf of Alaska and Pacific Ocean. West. Bering Sea. Northwest. Chukchi Sea highest peak. Mount McKinley, Denali at 20,310 feet, the tallest peak in North America. Natural phenomena. The northern lights, aurora borealis, are visible across much of the state. Nearly one-third of Alaska lies within the Arctic Circle, and about 85% of the state is underlain by permafrost Tuvalu. Context. Australia has launched the world's first climate visa program, with about 80% of Tuvalu's population applying for it. About Tuvalu location, a small island nation in the Pacific Ocean, located midway between Hawaii and Australia. Composition. Consists of 9 islands. Neighbors. Kiribati lies to the north and Fiji to the south. Governance. Functions as a parliamentary democracy under a constitutional monarchy. New Caledonia. Context. France has announced an agreement to grant greater autonomy to New Caledonia, establishing a state of New Caledonia within the French Republic. About New Caledonia location, a French overseas territory in the Pacific Ocean. Historical background. In the 1840s, islanders were captured by European traders for slavery and forced labor in sugarcane plantations, later annexed by France in 1853. Current issue. Ongoing tensions between the indigenous Kanak population and European settlers over the question of independence. Water bodies / passages / channels in News Red Sea. Context. Red Sea cargo ships face new attacks as Houthis, Yemen, claim to have sunk vessel. About Red Sea, a marginal sea of the northwest Indian Ocean, linked to Gulf of Aden via the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, Mediterranean Sea via the Suez Canal. Bordering countries. West, Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea, Djibouti. East, Saudi Arabia, Yemen. Northeast, Israel, Jordan via Gulf of Aqaba, Northern Division, splits into Gulf of Suez, NW, and Gulf of Aqaba, NE. Unique feature. Among the most saline seas in the world, as it gets very little rainfall and has no river inflow. Lake Turkana. Context. The scientists have found 18 to 20 million years old enamel proteins from tropical Turkana Lake Basin, unraveling paleobiology of extinct taxa. About Lake Turkana location, saline lake in northern Kenya, extending into Ethiopia. Geography. Lies in the eastern arm of Africa's Rift Valley, East African Rift System. Size. World's largest permanent desert lake. World's largest alkaline lake. Fourth largest salt lake by volume, after Caspian Sea, Issyk-Kul, Lake Van, ahead of shrinking South Aral Sea. Type. Endorheic lake, no outflow. Water loss via evaporation. Water source. Fed mainly by the Omo River, Ethiopia. Biodiversity, 79 fish species, 12 endemic, and the world's largest Nile crocodile population. Recognition. Lake Turkana National Parks inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1997. Lake Urmia. Context. An official has warned that Iran's Lake Urmia could dry up within a few months. About Lake Urmia country. Iran, northwestern corner, between East and West Azerbaijan provinces. Global rank. Formerly the world's second largest saltwater lake. Type. Salt lake, endorheic basin, closed system with no outlet to the sea. Drake Passage. Context. Recently, a massive 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck the Drake Passage. About Drake Passage location. Between Cape Horn, South America, and the South Shetland Islands, Antarctica. Connects southwestern Atlantic Ocean with southeastern Pacific Ocean. Named after Sir Francis Drake, first Englishman to circumnavigate the globe. Oceanography. Known as one of the roughest waterways due to collision of cold southern and warm northern waters, strong winds, and powerful eddies. Climatic role. Acts as a boundary between the subpolar climate of Tierra del Fuego and the polar climate of Antarctica. Gulf of Finland. Context. Estonia reported 3 Russian MiG-30s violated its airspace over the Gulf of Finland for 12 minutes. About Gulf of Finland location. The Gulf of Finland is the easternmost extension of the Baltic Sea, situated in northern Europe. Boundaries. It is bordered by Finland to the north, Russia to the east, and Estonia to the south. Key city. At its eastern end lies the Russian city of St. Petersburg. Major rivers. The Gulf receives water from several rivers, notably the Neva and Narva, along with others such as the Kimi, Luga, Vanta, Parita, and more. Connections. It is linked to Lake Saimaa through the Saimaa Canal. International recognition. The southern coast of the Gulf of Finland has been designated as a Ramsar wetland. Landforms in News Tyra Valley. Context. Many people died, and several houses were destroyed in an explosion that occurred recently in the Tyra Valley. About Tyra Valley location. Rugged mountainous region in west-central Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Geographical significance. Lies between the Khyber Pass and Kanki Valley. Khyber Pass connects Peshawar, Pakistan with Kabul, Afghanistan, serving as a historic trade and strategic route. Inhabitants, mainly Afridi and Oryxay Pashtun tribes. Kamchatka Peninsula. Context. A powerful 8.7 magnitude earthquake struck off Russia's far east Kamchatka Peninsula. About Kamchatka Peninsula location, a peninsula in far eastern Russia, lying between the Sea of Okhotsk, west, and the Pacific Ocean and Bering Sea, east. Peak, Klyachevskaya Sopka, 4,750 m, the highest active volcano in Eurasia. Volcanic activity. Among the world's most active volcanic regions. Contains the volcanoes of Kamchatka, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and part of the Ring of Fire. Geysers. The Valley of Geysers lies at the junction of the Shumnaya and Geysernia rivers. It has the second largest concentration of geysers in the world, after Iceland. Easter Island, Chile. Context: a recent study cautioned that rising sea levels could threaten Easter Island's world-famous Moai statues by 2080. About Easter Island location, situated in the southeastern Pacific Ocean, west of mainland Chile, locally called Rapa Nui. Significance: renowned for around 900 Moai statues, massive stone figures created by the Rapa Nui people between the 13th and 16th centuries. The island is a UNESCO World Heritage Site as part of Rapa Nui National Park. Okavango Delta context: in Botswana's Okavango Delta, a wild Botswana. Elephant startled tourists while bathing in the waters about Okavango Delta, among the world's largest inland deltas, without an outlet to the sea, and designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Famous for its rich wildlife, the region draws vast numbers of animals in search of water amid the dry Kalahari landscape. To the point, India, Lipulekh Pass. Context: Nepal has objected to India and China announcing the reopening of border trade through the Lipulekh Pass, citing its claims over the region. About Lipulekh Pass, it is a high-altitude Himalayan mountain pass situated in the Kemar region of Pithoragarh district of Uttarakhand, India. Height: the pass lies at approximately 5,334 meters, 17,500 feet, above sea level. River basin: it forms part of the Kali River basin. The Kali River originates from nearby Kali Glacier. Strategic importance: it lies near the tri-junction of India, Nepal, and Tibet, China. Gateway: it is a key part of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, the annual pilgrimage to Mount Kailash and Lake Mansarovar for Hindus and Buddhists. The Lipulekh Pass dispute is a border issue between India and Nepal over the ownership of the Kalapani-Lipulekh Limpiadura area, caused by differing interpretations of the boundaries set by the 1816 Treaty of Sugali. Baitra Island. Context: the Lakshadweep administration is considering acquiring Baitra Island for defense purposes. About Baitra Island, it is the smallest inhabited island in the Lakshadweep archipelago. It is uniquely located on the northeastern tip of a large coral ring reef, offering natural protection. Climate: classified as tropical savanna, under the Köppen-Geiger climate classification system. Barren Island. Context: recently, an active volcano on Barren Island has erupted not once, but twice within a week. About Barren Island, it is a volcanic island in the Andaman Sea, part of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, India. It is located about 138 kilometers northeast of Port Blair. The island lies on the subduction zone of the Indian and Burmese plates. It is the only active volcano in the Indian subcontinent, and also the only active one in the Sumatra-Myanmar volcanic chain. The island is a stratovolcano, made of lava, rock fragments, and volcanic ash. Karyakali Island. Context: Karyakali Island, currently uninhabited, has experienced substantial submergence in recent decades due to accelerated erosion and rising sea levels. About Karyakali Island location, situated in the Gulf of Mannar Marine National Park region, Tamil Nadu, between Rameshwaram and Thoothukudi. Restoration efforts. Under the Tamil Nadu Sustainably Harnessing Ocean Resources (TNSHORE) project, initiatives will focus on reef restoration using artificial modules, seagrass bed plantation, and the revival of marine biodiversity around the island. Beas River. Context: due to unprecedented rainfall in its catchment areas, the Beas River in Himachal Pradesh recorded its highest ever water inflow. About Beas River origin. Beas Kund, near Rohtang Pass, 4,062 m, on the southern face of the pass in the Kullu region, Himachal Pradesh. River system: part of the Indus River system in northwestern India. States covered: Himachal Pradesh and Punjab. Valleys formed: creates the Kullu Valley and Kangra Valley. Tributaries: major, Bain, Banganga, Luni, Uhul. Others: Banner, Chucky, Gai, Harla, Mamuni, Parvati, Patlikal, Sange, Sakiti, Tirthan. Major dams: Pung, Beas, Dam/Maharana Pratap Sagar, Earth Fill Embankment Dam, Kangra, Himachal Pradesh. Alkananda River. Context: heavy rains in Rudraprayag, Uttarakhand have caused the Alkananda River's water level to rise sharply. About Alkananda River location, Himalayan River in Uttarakhand. Significance: one of the two main headstreams of the Ganga, the other being Bhagirathi. Origin: Sadapanth and Bhagirath Karak glaciers in the Garhwal Himalayas. Tributaries: joined by several tributaries, 5 major ones form the Panchprayag. Panchprayag, holy confluences. Vishnuprayag. Alkananda meets Dalaganga Nanprayag. Alkananda meets Nandakini Karnaprayag. Alkananda meets Pindar Rudraprayag. Alkananda meets Mandakini Devprayag. Alkananda meets Bhagirathi, where it is officially called the Ganga.